us for another episode of A Weekly Dose of Property Management Bullshit. My name is Derek Higgins, and I'm your host this and every Saturday over the next few weeks while we talk about all the bullshit in property management nobody else wants to talk about. Each week we have a different guest and a different topic. This week we're going to cover marketing made easy, and I've got Heather. Welcome, Heather.
Well, thank you, Derek.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in the industry a little over 13 years. I started as a leasing consultant, moved my way up to assistant manager, to community director, to marketing director.
Yes. I'm actually in your role now when you got promoted up to property supervisor, and then now you're in
HR.
I got to be real careful what I say on this show.
Yes, very careful.
You like to write folks up, and you ain't going to write me up.
I'm writing you up
You'll
right now.
catch these hands, you write me up. So how did you get into the industry?
Well, I actually kind of fell into the industry. I had a family member that was the owner of a management company, and I started out as a leasing consultant for her. I was a leasing consultant for about 3 or 4 months, and then I became an assistant manager for about 5 years, and then community director, and then on and on.
So what was your favorite role that you had?
My favorite role is community director.
Why?
Why?
That's such a stressful role.
No, it's fun. It's excitement.
Tell me your viewpoint of it.
Every day is different. You get to help train people, build them up, take care of your residents. But every day is different. That's what I love about it. You never know what you're about to walk into.
Yeah, I spent several years as a community director. Did you feel a little bit like a therapist?
Yes.
During your time? Yes.
You kind of wear all different hats in that role.
There are many different hats. You're the leasing manager, the leasing director. You're the leasing agent. You're the maintenance. You're the problem solver.
You're the fireman.
You're IT
therapist. Yeah, IT. Everything. Yeah. I mean, name it. That's exactly what you are.
So what would you say? Like, we'll just take your property management position. What was one of your biggest pet peeves when you were on site?
Oh, biggest pet peeves. Yeah. Just even today is making sure if there's a deadline, reports are due. Something is due. Make sure it's done on time and correctly. Yeah.
I struggle with that every month. We have market surveys that are due the middle of every month, and it seems like we've got a few that want to just kind of stagger them in around the 16th or the 17th, even though they're due on the 15th. But you've got 15 days beforehand to even start working on that. So, it's real important to meet those deadlines because, I've got deadlines. The person above me's got deadlines. So deadlines aren't just an on-site thing that we have to meet. Everyone's got their own deadlines. And if you miss yours, it causes everybody just to kind of fall behind.
Right. But it's not only that. Like, yes, there's a deadline, but please, let's make sure it's correct. Double check it. Like, spot check it. If it's a market survey, make sure you're
calling. Or it's your weekly reports, whatever it is.
Right.
Always double check your work to make sure that what you've got is valid work, because if you turn it in and it's not valid, this discredits your ability to be able to do your job.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. All right. So I don't really have any more questions at this moment. A few weeks ago, we sent out some templates asking for some questions on discussion panels, like on Facebook, and that are designed for management and maintenance support, and got a few questions back, and we're gonna kind of ask some of the top questions that we got, and as we go through those, kind of answer them however you want to. If you don't want to answer them, we don't like them, fuck it. All right. So our first question is coming from Michael out of Laredo, Texas. Michael says, what is the best way in 2019 to generate more leads to my property?
Well, social media marketing is a great way to market nowadays with Facebook Marketplace.
Absolutely.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Twitter.
Tinder. It don't matter.
Swipe right on that.
Swipe right. You better swipe right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Social media marketing now is kind of turning into one of the most solid forefront leaders of traffic generation when it comes to multifamily management, because everyone's, there's some people that have never even heard about it, but there's a lot of people that are using Facebook Marketplace.
Right. And you actually introduced it to me about a year and a half ago.
I did.
So thank you. But
you are absolutely welcome.
But it does really help. It generates
really
a lot of traffic. We've secured a lot of leases, so it is a great tool to use.
Yeah, absolutely. So our next question is coming from David out of Kansas City, Missouri. Is content marketing an effective source of marketing for property management?
Absolutely. You do want to make sure everything is relevant to your community, but at the end of the day, it's the people
Yeah.
that make your home. All the apartments look the same, especially in our
They do,
area.
Yeah, you got the four walls, the ceiling, the roof, all the same vinyl, all the same carpet, the same amenities. So really, what sets yourself apart now in the communities is really just your customer service and your,
Right.
The tour that you give to those people.
Right. You have to create rapport
Yeah,
with them,
absolutely.
connect with them.
Develop a relationship. It's like meeting somebody at the bar or somewhere else. Develop that relationship with them, and your tour is going to go so much well. And
Right.
And you'll stand out.
Right. They're
Yeah.
going to want to make that their home because they know they're going to be taken care of.
No, absolutely.
But make sure all marketing that you do is relevant to your community.
Absolutely.
Your amenities, shop your competitors. Make sure everything is going to stand apart for your community from your competitors.
Yeah. Yeah. So our next question is coming from Jamie out of Miami, Florida. Jamie says, what are the benefits of social media marketing?
It's free.
It's free.
Yes.
That's the main benefit.
Yes, that's
you
great.
don't have to check your budgets. You don't have to get approval for free.
Right.
Just have a fun. You
Right.
may need approval to if you don't already have a property Facebook page, you may need the approval to be able to start one.
Right.
But outside of that, it's it's free.
Right. And you can boost your posts as well on
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace,
Yeah.
but it's still relatively inexpensive. So it's a great tool to use.
Yeah, and you want to be careful when you get to boosting because HUD has filed a massive lawsuit against Facebook right now because of some discriminatory practices that they have in when you can select the filters as far as the age group or the demographic, the sex of the resident, or the prospect or the person that we're marketing to,
Right.
whether it's male or female. So you want to be careful not to select either. Don't make any changes to the age or the sex of the person. One of the things that's not a protected class though inside Facebook is the
The
location area.
right.
Yeah. So, most people do the marketing within 10 or 15 miles of the property's specific location. And that's fine because that's not a protected class, but you want to make sure that you don't change those settings within Facebook.
Right. Yeah, you do have to be very careful, but it's a great tool to use. I definitely recommend
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. So our next question is coming from Jameson out of Austin, Texas. Jameson says, I manage a portfolio of 4 communities, each under 100 units. How important is websites when it comes to generating solid leads for smaller properties?
Well, that's absolutely going to depend on whether or not you're using any ILS right now, whether it be apartments.com for rent, apartment guide, Zillow, and how high occupied you are right now. That is going to make a difference. But I would suggest it's 2019.
Yeah.
It's great to have a website, relatively
is.
inexpensive.
Yeah.
So-
we built the website for the show for less than $200.
Right. So you can do everything online, and when you're leasing an apartment, you can view your apartment, you can sign your
Yeah.
application, sign your lease. You do everything online, sight unseen. So
Yeah.
I definitely recommend a website.
Yeah, and one of the things that comes to mind when it talks about websites on such a smaller property, you may want, if you don't have one and you're trying to talk your management company into it, you may promote the side of, what it takes to, do the work orders online and the payments online and the amount of time and labor that it saves by that being done online versus trying to promote it from an aspect of lead generation and lead
Right.
management.
Great point.
Because you're going to get a lot more free time on your hands by promoting the side that does allow them to put in the work orders and the payments online, because you've just saved a ton of time by not having to do that manually.
Right. And you have 4 proproperties, so you're busy. I mean, even though they're all under 100 units, that's still, you have,
Hopefully they're close together.
right. Hopefully.
Alrighty, our next question is coming from Elizabeth out of Dallas, Texas. Elizabeth says, what content should be displayed on my website and marketing sites to ensure that we are in compliance with fair housing laws as it compares to marketing?
Please, please, please have the Fair Housing logo on every
Yeah.
piece of marketing material that goes out.
Absolutely, especially if it's print or something that you're sending out to neighborhoods. You don't necessarily have to have it on every Facebook post as long as it's somewhere in the property's Facebook page, but you've got to have that equal housing
Right.
opportunity logo in there.
Any flyer going out, make sure it's on every piece of flyer.
Absolutely. Your websites,
Right? Websites.
really anything that you do, it needs to be on there. It's probably the safe rule of thumb or thumb of rule or whatever the saying is.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so our next question is coming from Mark out of Salt Lake City, Utah. My property is considered cash poor.
I've never worked in Salt Lake City, but it sounds like we've worked for some of the same properties.
Right. Cash poor?
Yeah, that's
It's a pretty common term here in Dallas, Texas, at some of the properties.
properties.
Not any of our properties, but there are plenty of properties around here that would be classified as cash poor.
So my property is considered cash poor, and our budgets are extremely tight. However, our occupancy is trending in the mid-80s over the last 12 months. What are some effective ways of marketing when marketing dollars are seldom available?
Facebook.
Yeah, this kind of ties back to
Yeah,
Facebook.
I mean, of course, there is old school marketing.
Yeah, the outreach marketing.
Right.
You know, and that worked really well back in the 90s and the early 2000s. You know, I'm sure you remember the day of posting on Craigslist all the time. And, you know, that's not really so much a good
That's fizzled
avenue.
out.
Yeah, it really has. Now you got more scammers and schemers on Craigslist than you do anywhere else. I would still use it because it is free, but I wouldn't expect a huge following or
Right.
a huge inquiry off of Craigslist postings. But outreach marketing is really well. You know, you can do, you know, as far as what would you recommend on outreach marketing?
So I would definitely find out who the biggest employers are in the area you're in, visit with them, start a preferred employee program.
No, absolutely.
Definitely do that. I would also look to see who's hiring in the area and
Yeah.
go meet with their HR to see if you can advertise with them as well, because they need a place to stay.
Yeah. You know, another good thing is the airlines here in the area, you know, the big hubs that they have, and, you know, here in Dallas or Phoenix or Denver, you know, they have to get their employees from somewhere. You know, they train, you know, one of the gentlemen that works for our company, his partner works in the training department for an airline. You know, and they bring these people, you know, just because you're in the Dallas area or the Denver area, and they could bring them from everywhere for these
Right.
training meetings. You know, and you have to be in this class for anywhere from a year to 2 years to get this full training. Not necessarily in the class, but in that hub or that general area. You have to live there.
Right.
You know, so you know these huge airlines in the area are great sources to use for your preferred
Right.
employers.
Yeah, they need housing, and then also reach out
gotta live
to
somewhere.
the universities.
Yeah. Or, you know, you get on your city websites and find, you know, what your top employers are. You know, how many, you always want to kind of look and do your research as far as the median income for those employers to make sure that it meets with your leasing criteria.
Right.
As far as how many times the amount of the rent you have to make to be able to even qualify. But that's an additional source of an outreach marketing that you can do.
Right.
Yeah. So our next question is coming from Malargo out of Lubbock, Texas. Malargo says, and she says a lot in this paragraph.
Okay.
Malargo says, my company seems to invest more dollars in reputation management than we do marketing the property. Our reviews are terrible and have been for the last 2 years I have been here. They won't invest marketing dollars until we get a better trend of reviews, but expect us to be able to maintain a 97% occupancy and a 93% saturation in my area. How do I get my occupancy up without spending
Marketing dollars.
That's unfortunate that they're spending all of their
is.
money on reputation management. I
Yeah.
understand it's important,
It's
but
extremely important to have reputation management, but if you're going on 2 years of solid bad reviews, I feel like
Yeah.
you might not be spending enough time addressing your reviews.
right, yeah, you definitely have to address those issues and correct them, whether it's roaches or bed
Yeah.
bugs or roof leaks or whatever
Yeah.
the actual issue is. Those have to be addressed.
Yeah.
And once that's fixed, then everything's going to start falling into place. They're going to see the credibility that you're actually stepping up to the plate to take care of the real root of the problem.
And you know, reputation management can also be a form of marketing, because you know you've got apartmentratings.com.
Right.
You know, this is all marketing. You know, and if you're going to market your property, why not market the best? You know, with your best foot forward.
Right, absolutely. And we have a lot of properties that stay full just because of apartment ratings.
Yeah. We actually just had our awards ceremony where 15 of our 21 properties were recognized in the top 5%.
Whoop, whoop. Yes.
Now, and those properties maintain an occupancy of 98% or better. If
Right.
you think that doesn't have something to do with the reviews, you're sadly mistaken.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
They have to be addressed.
They
but I
really
wouldn't
do.
spend all my money there. I would definitely market as well and address the issues.
So our next question comes from Danielle out of Biloxi, Mississippi. What are some of the effective ways of tracking our results when it comes to the efforts that we put forth during marketing?
Well, I don't know which management software that you're using, but hopefully you're tracking it and you're asking every prospect or everyone that comes in or a phone call, how do they hear about you? Make sure you're tracking that, because that's very important. If you have a marketing department, they need to see where they need to spend their money.
No, absolutely.
If a lot of your leads are apartments.com, then you're probably going to want to invest a little bit more money in that. But if Zillow isn't working out in that area,
Oh, Zillow's great.
yes,
But it really depends on what your area is.
It depends on
also.
the area, yeah. Because I've had properties, and they're 10 miles apart.
Yeah.
But apartment ratings worked great for one community, but then the other
Yeah.
apartment guide worked great.
And that's very true. I used to manage a property down in Angleton, Texas, where apartments.com, For Rent, and Zillow, these things didn't work. Nobody moved to the area.
Right.
You only had about 18,000 people in this city, and that type of property, we just had to get out and beat the streets and find our residents.
Right. You had to
bring
do a
them
lot
in.
more outreach
Yeah.
marketing. But, if a prospect says, I found you on the internet, really start questioning them. Find out where.
Yeah.
Don't just
They
say.
need to get specific,
Yes.
because these type of things get entered into the system, and trust me, they are reviewed every year before your budgets are done. And why would the company invest any dollars in apartments.com if they only see 30 leads that came in that generated only 6 leases during
Right.
the year?
They're not going to want to put
Which
that
is
money there.
obviously bogus. Apartments.com sends hundreds of leads a
Right.
month. But you need to make sure that you fine tune it, get down into the bottom of it, and see exactly what that lead source is. The internet, I found it on the internet. That's just not a good option.
Right.
And don't use other.
Do not use other.
I get so annoyed when I pull the reports at our company, and we've had 12 leases during the month of April, and 8 of them are from other. I don't know what other is, so I don't know how to evaluate what we need to do next year to get those leads to continue to come in, because I don't know what other means.
Right. Find out what it is. If it's something that's not on the list, ask corporate to put that in there, so whether it's Zillow or Drive By. You know if it's a prior resident that lived there, if it's just a referral. So make sure that's in there.
Oh, absolutely. So our next question is coming from Lainey out of New Orleans, Louisiana. She says, my property uses Facebook Marketplace for advertising our units. We get 100% of our leads a week, but 95% of the traffic seems to be unqualified. How can we better utilize Marketplace to receive
Qualified traffic.
Oh, unfortunately, that's a problem with Facebook sometimes.
It is. If you've ever actually looked at an apartment or tried to find an apartment on Facebook, it's just literally the I'm interested button. You click that, and
Is there anything available? You just click
is
it.
this still available?
They don't read anything. They just look at the
No.
pictures.
Yeah.
But
And I'm guilty of that also. I just look at the pictures.
right, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But so that you're not wasting a lot of your valuable time and you're not wasting their time, when you respond to them, you might want to have something that's copied and pasted that reiterates the qualifying criteria.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for reaching out. And put that criteria into the actual body of the post, but
Right.
create you some responses that are copy and paste. Thank you so much for reaching out to our community. Just as a refresher, here's our leasing criteria. This unit is still available. We'd love to be able to set you up for a tour. And then directly ask them for their contact information.
Right. And that's how you can weed out who's really serious.
Yeah.
If they're going to supply that phone number, that way you can start creating rapport with them and get them in the door. Because I know a lot of people are looking in the evening, but I don't want to go back and forth with a conversation. I want to reach out to them in the morning when I know my availability, because I'm not going to look that up at 8 o'clock at night.
No.
So that way, if you get their phone number, they're serious, and you can reach back out to them and
absolutely.
find them the perfect home.
Absolutely. So our last question, Heather, is coming from Billy out of Phoenix, Arizona. He says, I manage an 800-unit
An 800-unit property
Wow.
in Phoenix, Arizona. I hope to God those ACs are on the ground and not on the roof.
I would surely hope so.
Could you imagine what you'd have to pay a maintenance tech out in Phoenix, Arizona, when it's 120 degrees in the winter, to be able to get up on to
In
the
the winter,
roof?
I couldn't imagine. That would be
That's
awful.
ridiculous. You would blow your entire budget at our company trying to service ACs on the roof.
Right. Yes.
That's crazy. So Billy says, I manage an 800-unit property in Phoenix, Arizona, and have several units available for lease currently. Is there a third-party analytic platform we can use that is cost-effective when it comes to tracking leads and clicks? My company thinks I'm wasting time with Facebook marketing, even though it generates 60+% of our lease closing stats.
Kind of sounds like he's already tracking it.
Tracking something, but
Yes,
that could be
on-
just simply the reports that they run through the management software. If they're
Yes.
actually, using it properly, that could be where he's getting it from.
So, but it sounds like he's might be using Facebook analytics.
Yeah.
There's
There's an additional app called Ads Manager that will allow you to set your parameters within that and be able to see a lot more analytical type reports.
right. It sounds
within
like he's
there.
definitely tracking it, but hopefully his management software is tracking it. If not, make sure he's on that Facebook analytics that way so he can track that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had a couple last questions I wanted to ask you. I want to take you back to your first day. Do you remember your first day?
13 years ago, like way back when, yes, I
Yeah.
was pregnant.
Oh, you were pregnant with our little baseball star, Nate, huh?
Yes.
Aw. So take me back 13 years, your first day. If you could tell yourself one thing to prepare yourself for the road ahead, what would that be?
More or less, it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be all right.
It's okay. You've got this. Just try to stay positive.
Yeah.
Every day is different.
Yeah.
So,
And a lot of times you have to find your own positivity. You got to find your own
True.
excitement in your day, because a lot of times you may work for a company that doesn't boost you up, and maybe you've got a property manager that isn't as eccentric, or just doesn't give you the boost that you feel like you
Right,
need.
yeah.
Sometimes you got to learn to just boost yourself
you
and
have
be
to
your
be
own fan.
Yeah, your own cheerleader. But always stay positive.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's a different day, so
It
it'll be
is.
okay.
So anybody that might be watching this podcast tonight, or in the future that might be watching it and is just like, God, they look like they're having a lot of fun in their industry, what type of advice would you give that person to not only get into the industry, but be able to make sense of their first year? What advice would you give that person?
So if you're just now getting in the industry, I would definitely recommend watching podcast for Leasing Leah,
Oh, I love her.
Tony
Leah Orson.
Blake.
Yep. Tony Blake.
yeah, Matt Easton.
Yep. Another great one. Tony Blake just was part of the TAA conference down in Houston, Texas this last year.
Yeah, and
I'm
she's
sure you've seen-
amazing. Yes.
She is amazing.
Fridays 10 at 10.
You remember that?
I love them.
Yeah, I remember the 10 and 10. We never got to watch it at 10 o'clock. I would have to watch it when I get home.
Right. Yeah. Always.
So it turned into the 10 at 7 o'clock.
Right, but that's
still,
okay. That's
it's
okay
fine.
because great ideas. Love it.
Yeah.
Grace Hill trainings.
Yeah.
And if you're just getting in the industry, definitely there's apartment staffing companies.
Yeah, you've got here in Dallas. You've got A-list apartment staffing. You've got Sterling. You've got BG.
Right, there's
just a ton
several
of
of them.
them.
And not only that, they will actually help you get credentials. So you can do
Yeah.
fair housing, leasing.
Yep. They'll put you through their own training class.
Right, so it's great. Definitely recommend that.
Yeah, absolutely. All righty, so I don't have any more questions, but Heather, thank you so much for joining us today. Actually, I do have one last question. So, I guess after 13 years, you've probably had some calamity at your property and a little bit of ridiculousness or something else. We don't have a whole lot of time to talk about all of them because 13 years, we've got thousands of stories. But when I say ridiculous funny story, what's the main thing that comes to your mind?
Well, since we're on marketing right now, our topic's
yeah.
marketing. This is pertaining to marketing.
Oh, great.
So we had a flyer that was in production, and at the property we had huge decks.
Oh, I already know where this is going.
You can imagine what it said on the flyer, but thank goodness that one didn't get distributed.
That one?
That one,
Okay, so one apparently. Let's talk about the one that got distributed.
the one that got distributed. Okay, so it was a floor plan brochure, trifold.
Yeah,
We had dry bar areas.
dry bar. That's like a wet bar, I guess, without a sink.
Yes.
So
yes.
you've got a counter.
Yeah,
So
you
it's
have
a
a
counter
counter,
and a
a
cabinet.
mirror with
Okay.
glass shelves
All right.
in the living room.
So you got a dry bar.
A dry bra.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Dry bar bra,
dry bra.
and that made it to print.
It did. A couple of prospects.
Did y'all lease anything off of those dry bras? It's so hard. It's so hard to even say without making a mistake.
Right, exactly.
Let alone
So-
typing it out. And I'm sure spell check obviously didn't catch that.
Did. So yes, you have to proofread put another set of eyes on there just to
Yeah,
make sure everything
please.
looks good before you distribute anything, please.
Yeah, we're all huge fans of huge decks and dry bras,
Dry
but you got to
bras.
be really careful about how you put it on there.
Yeah. Doesn't pertain to our industry.
Right? Yeah, we can't be promoting for strippers. Alrighty.
So thank you for joining us tonight for our Marketing Made Easy episode of a weekly dose of property management bullshit. Again, my name is Derek Higgins, and we're here every Saturday night. So make sure you tune in to us next Saturday night while we have a different co-host and a different topic each week. And on that note, listen, learn, laugh, and we'll see you soon. Good night.
Good night.